Today, I'm giving each Hashira the ability to use sun breathing, and I think I accidentally created the strongest Demon Slayer generation in history. If you thought Muzan got PTSD from seeing Tanjiro's Hanafuda earrings, just wait to see what happens when all 9 Hashira are surrounding him with their sun breathing marks. Of course, there are some ground rules to make things fair. For one, I can't just slap on sun breathing on a character and call it a day. I gotta take into account how they act, their fighting styles, abilities, and weapons in order to stay as close to the original material as possible. Secondly, to make it even better, we're gonna be combining the sun breathing with the Hashira's current breathing style to make newer, stronger techniques that make even Yoriichi blush. And no, we're not breaking rule number 1 because we've already seen Tanjiro combine sun breathing with water breathing to save one of Tengen's wives to reduce his exhaustion, and even combining it with thunder breathing in order to gain speed to catch up to Hang Tengu. Finally, to make it interesting, the Hashira are not using sun breathing to the same level as Yoriichi. This might seem like a weird rule, but it's here to explain why the Hashira still need to combine the sun breathing with their own personal techniques. If they were all as good as Yoriichi, then just one of them having sun breathing would be enough to take out all the upper and lower moons and Muzan himself in one foul swoop. I know I said I wanted an overkill, but we gotta make it interesting at least. Okay, let's start off with everyone's favorite Hashira, the behind slapper himself, Giyu Tomioka, the water Hashira. Giyu is already an incredibly powerful Hashira, and he's shown to be way stronger than our main 3 lovable idiots several times. His water-breathing style has the user moving their sword like a body of water, making it almost look like they're dancing. That's perfect, because as we know from the Kamado family, Yoriichi taught the sun-breathing technique to them in the form of a dance. So giving Giyu sun-breathing won't be too hard, because water-breathing is very close to sun-breathing anyway. This means that Giyu can combine the precise flowing movements of the water-breathing style with the sheer burning power of the sun. For instance, the first form in Giyu's signature move, Water Surface Slash, which is a sharp slash aimed at a quick decapitation of a demon's head in one move. The new name of the first form can be called Sunlit Water Surface Slash, and still has Giyu performing a sharp slash at the demon's head, but now it has a lot more power behind it, and on top of it all, the wound inflicted on the demon erupts in sun-like flames, guaranteeing that the demon can't regenerate. The rest of his techniques can follow the same pattern, still involving sharp and precise flowing strikes, but with the added power of the sun's purifying flames, making a duality of fire and water. No demon stands a chance. But the technique that get the biggest change is his own specially made 11th form, Dead Calm. The one we know has Giyu ceasing all movements and reacting to any and every attack thrown at him. He pretty much goes Ultra Instinct and dodges every attack thrown at him. But with the addition of sun breathing, this goes from being just a defensive move to Giyu's ultimate weapon. Add sun breathing to the mix, and Giyu still enters the same calm and concentrated state. But because he uses sun breathing, he can access the selfless state and see-through world, and this gives his 11th form a whole new power boost. First, there are almost no attacks he can't deflect. Using the selfless state and see-through world with this already insane defense will mean that in his fight with Akaza, for example, Akaza will never be able to adapt to this technique, and it will only be a matter of time before Giyu would slice off his head. All he needs to do is to lure Akaza inside his range by making Akaza using a close range attack, and boom! Now Akaza is inside Giyu's domain expansion. Sorry, wrong anime. And we're only just getting started. Next up, why don't we save someone who definitely didn't deserve to die? That's right, we're gonna make Rengoku, the deceased Flame Hashira, survive the Mugen Train incident. First of all, Rengoku is the Flame Hashira, making him the closest to all the others to having sun breathing. Mainly because his ancestor is the only Hashira we know that kept a close relationship with Yoriichi and basically studied his every move. Rengoku is powerful, and I mean really powerful. But that unfortunately wasn't enough to beat Akaza. But we all know who really won that fight in the end. Now let's prove it. Unlike Giyu, who had a more defensive and agile technique, the flame-breathing style is more direct and it's all about power. That's perfect for someone like Rengoku with his bright heart. Remember, power is force over time. His already hot and powerful attacks would get even crazier with sun breathing, allowing him to attack with the intensity of the sun. Can you imagine how deadly he would be to demons if his flames were strong enough to not just burn them, but permanently wound them? Removing Akaza's regeneration, or at least slowing it down, is not going to be enough. We're talking about a member of the strongest generation here. He needs more juice. I mean, you know that our new creation is powerful when our boy Akaza got his ass handed to him twice in a row. So on top of having flames hot enough to make Adventure Time's Flame Princess blush, Rengoku's speed and strength should definitely come into play here. With the enhanced power that comes with sun breathing, Rengoku's abilities can take on an entirely new shape, and I mean that literally. We can take his 5th form Flame Tiger to an entirely different level and change it to a Raging Phoenix. Just like it sounds, Rengoku's flames coat his body, taking on the form of a flaming, very hot phoenix, and he charges at his opponent in blinding speed. And we're not done yet. With that extra little bit of overkill, his most powerful form, the 9th form, Rengoku becomes 9th form Sun Rengoku. And just like the normal technique, Rengoku charges in on his opponent with so much raw strength that the ground around his feet gives way as he dashes. On top of this, the light of his flames are so bright that they temporarily stun his opponents as they get close, giving them little, if any, time to react. Akaza could barely survive against the Rengoku we know, so imagine how the battle between this version of Rengoku and Akaza would have gone. There would have been no chance of him surviving. Their final battle beside the derailed train would have been decided as soon as it started, and with a final powerful slash using his 9th form Sun Rengoku, our Flame Hashira would have saved the day and come home for a nice meal with his colleagues. If only, right? But enough of the sad stuff. Let's look at our next Hashira, Shinobu Kocho, the Insect Hashira. Now, I'm not gonna lie, Shinobu was a tough nut to crack. Now, don't get me wrong, she's a Hashira, but her biggest flaw is that she's too weak to cut a demon's neck and relies on poison to get the job done. I would love to just boost her strength a little, but I'm a man of my word, and I'm sticking to my rules. So let's turn the poison-wielding Shinobu to a new level with sun breathing and turn her into an absolute menace. Let's stop looking at the negatives for a second and think about the positives. Shinobu is fast, like crazy stupid fast. She's so fast that her first form butterfly dance, Caprice, has her stabbing her opponent so fast that a dozen strikes only look like one single slash. Even Doma himself, an upper rank 2 demon, said that a strike from her with her speed would be enough to destroy a wooden bridge. And that's perfect for a sun breathing user. Don't forget, sun breathing does have a thrust attack called Sunflower Trust. We can see Tanjiro uses it against Hantengu. So let's change up her first form a bit to make use of her sun breathing technique. Her new first form will be Sunlit Butterfly, Radiant Caprice, and it'd be just as impressive as her other previous first form, except the same butterflies that appear as she rushes at her opponents would be flaming, making it even more dazzling and confusing them even more. This definitely helps with her other form, Dance of the Centipede, 100-Legged Zigzag, which is all about confusing your opponent as the user searches for an opening to inject a ton of poison into them. Of course, to keep the theme, we'll change the name of her attack to Dance the Dragonfly, Dazzling Flutter. But I hear what you're saying, that isn't nearly cool enough. Well, don't worry, I got a little more under my sleeve. As potent as Shinobu's poison is, a sun-breathing user shouldn't just be using any old poison. No, we need something stronger. Something that'll make demons tremble in fear. So how about we boost this poison of hers? That's right, Shinobu's poison now takes power directly from the sun. How, you ask? By combining tiny shreds of Nichiren ore with their poison, burning the demon's blood from the inside. With this, as soon as the poison gets injected into the demon, they immediately feel a sharp burning pain similar to being exposed to direct sunlight. From the point of contact, right through every vein up to the heart, the demon will grow red as the sharp pain of the sun's heat burns them from the inside out. That way, even if the poison doesn't end them, the constant pain of having the literal flames of the sun flowing through their veins will make them do it themselves. But this is nothing compared to the next Hashira on the list. Obanai, the Snake Hashira, is the next on our list, and is easily one of the most agile and cunning Hashira out there. He's partially blind in one eye, but has a special snake companion called Kaburamaru who's intelligent enough to relay information to Obanai, allowing him to fight efficiently despite his blind spots. Adding sun breathing to Obanai's already tricky movements would make him one of the most broken Hashira on this list, and easily overpowered. Let's see how we can achieve that. First of all, serpent breathing involves slithering and sneaky movements that keep the opponent guessing where the next attack will come from. His third form, Coil Choke, has the user circling around their opponent while using their sword to slice them from all directions. That sounds dangerous enough, but we're looking for overkill, and overkill says we turn it up a notch. The new form, enhanced with sun breathing, will be called third form Blazing Cobra Choke, and just like before, Obanai dashes around the opponent, releasing a relentless assault of attacks from all angles, with each slash leaving burning scars that slow down their regeneration. Fun fact here, but Obanai was the one who realized how to change his sword to a bright red sword based on information from his crow alone. It's safe to say that turning his blade bright red is something that he will achieve immediately after mastering sun breathing, and this will amplify his already immense skill and strength by a lot. There is a move that can be fitted to Obanai perfectly, and I'm sure most of you already guessed what it is. This movement is very similar to how Obanai moves, and he'll make this move his favorite and enhance it to the maximum potential possible, rivaling even Tanjiro. Next up, we got a fan favorite, the love Hashira, Mitsuri Kanroji. She was once under the guidance of Rengoku, but couldn't keep up with his training, so she developed her own breathing style directly from flame breathing. Let's see how we can make her even more powerful than she already is, shall we? Mitsuri uses a razor-sharp whip katana that can reach places other traditional katanas can't. That means a lot of her attacks are long range, and with her exceptional strength, they hit way harder and are more versatile than an ordinary katana. Another advantage is the fact that because of the length of her whip, one attack can hit multiple areas at once, making it a crazy strong multi-hit technique. Which is perfect for sun breathing. Just like Rengoku's first form, Unknown Fire, Mitsuri's first form has her dashing forward with her whip and giving a massive slash towards her target. Except instead of just one hit, the whip curls around the target, slicing them multiple times over the course of that single attack. Now let's add some sun breathing flair to that. The move is called First Form, Shivers of First Love. Instead, we can rename it to First Form, Glow of First Love, and it still goes the same way. Except, instead of the whip just cutting into the opponent, it also leaves a harsh explosion as bright and powerful as the sun on wherever the blade cuts, making the wounds far more lethal to demons than they would have been before. I'm not done with her yet though, because her sixth form cat-legged Winds of Love really makes use of the fact that her weapon is a whip. She performs an arcing slash that retracts the whip and does it again like she's taming a wild lion. I think a much better use for that would be Love Sun Breathing's sixth form, Barrage of Explosive Love, where she uses her whip to leave scorching hot wounds on her opponent, unleashing a barrage of deadly strikes, each one hotter than the last. She's good, but I think we can do better. Next up, let's talk about the youngest Hashira and a prodigy in the making, Muichiro Tokito, the Mist Hashira. He may be young, but even Rengoku had admitted that Muichiro is way stronger than he was at that age. That means that he can only grow stronger. That's further proven that alongside Obanai, he's one of the only other Hashira that's been shown to be able to wield a sword with a stance powerful enough to activate the red blade. In fact, Obanai learned it directly from watching him. He could also keep up with Yoriichi Type 0, which was modeled after the man himself, and even completely overwhelmed it. Something that took Tanjiro several long and painful attempts to replicate. He's strong for sure, and only gonna get stronger from there as he grows. But we don't think he belongs in the strongest generation just yet, so let's buff him a bit to keep him with the rest. Muichiro is the most proficient mist-breathing user in history. He was so good that even the upper rank 1 Kokoshibo had to complement his skills, especially as his self-made technique was enough to overpower and kill Gyoko easily. So let's take his special move, 7th form Obscuring Clouds, and turn it into something truly menacing. But before that, I just want to say, you made it pretty far into the video. That must mean you're enjoying it so far, right? Well, if you are, why not leave a like and subscribe to the channel? That really helps us out over here with making these incredibly researched and edited videos for you. Anyways, getting back into it. We can change up the name of his 7th form a little to make it match the power we're about to give it. How about something like 7th form Blazing Storm? The original move, Obscuring Clouds, had Muichiro moving at different speeds, from incredibly slow to unbelievably fast, making it almost look like the user is teleporting in a cloud of mist. That allows him to swiftly attack and overwhelm the target while they're busy thinking they're surrounded by a cloud of thick mist. The new attack, though, would be way more powerful and much faster. As we've seen, using the power of sun breathing makes the user move faster and attack harder. That means the power of Muichiro's attacks would be way stronger, and he would move so fast that his opponents wouldn't be able to see him. He would move so fast that his opponent would think they're surrounded in a cloud of smoke, and the demon can almost smell something burning as lacerations and slashes slowly cover their body. Eventually, the move would end with a slash aimed at decapitation that happened before the demon even knew Muichiro had moved. Because Muichiro is a descendant of Kokoshibo and has blood of sun breathers, sun breathing will come to him much easier than the other Hashira. Moreover, his fight against Kokoshibo will end up differently. Yes, Kokoshibo will overwhelm him pretty easily, but he won't lose his arm or die in the fight like in the original story. Rather, he would be saved by Sanemi in the last moment, while fighting alongside Genya. Speaking of Sanemi, I prepared something very special for him. Combining wind and sun will create something out of this world. Literally. The wind Hashira is hot-blooded, rash, and has a tongue as sharp as a sword. Other than Kaguya Obuyashiki, which he respects, and Gyomei, which he's afraid of, it seemed like Sanemi had a bone to pick with everyone around him. But even with all that, his skill with the sword can't be underestimated. He's the second strongest Hashira in terms of skill for a reason. But his sword skills are pretty basic compared to the rest we've seen. Adding sun breathing to them would make them incredibly powerful, but it'd be bland to describe a bunch of explosive slashes. Combined with wind breathing, Sanemi's sun breathing will create solar flares hitting with insane wind pressure, combined with the heat of the sun. And we can't forget about his 0.01% Morechi blood. So stay tuned, we're creating a monster. His sixth form Black Wind Mountain Mist has Sanemi rotating his body to resemble something like a raging tornado. While it would have been fun to toss in fire breathing in there and make him a fire tornado, imagine a situation where he presses his thumb against his blade just hard enough to draw blood, then proceeds to attack the demons with his sixth form. While the demon is dazed and unable to think straight, Sanemi could rush forward with increased power and strength, slashing at anything that stands in his way with a flurry of powerful attacks. It could be called sixth form Intoxicating Mountain Flame. This new power, combined with the increased speed and strength, would make Sanemi an unstoppable force against any demon. And yeah, I know what you're asking. We can't just have the kid cutting himself open every time he wants to fight a demon. He'd bleed out by the end of the week. Well, while the loss of blood wouldn't be great, it could be an emergency kill move only to be used in emergency situations. On top of that, Sanemi has been shown to adapt his breathing technique, allowing him to stop the bleeding when he wants with calm breaths. That alone makes the move all the more viable. But his most formidable form yet is probably his ninth form, Idaten Typhoon. And with it, the user backflips into the air and while upside down, unleashes a powerful gust of circular wind that slashes apart anything below. But our version is even more powerful. Adding sun breathing to the mix will create a solar flame intense enough to recreate the glow of the northern lights. The demon will be cut to pieces and it'll be very hard for him to regenerate, leaving him in pieces on the ground, confused, similar to what Yoriichi did to Muzan. This attack will be both pretty and devastating in a very flashy way. And how can we speak on flashy attacks without mentioning the most flashy Hashira in the group? Tengen Uzui uses dual Nichiren cleavers, making him one of the few Hashira that use a weapon apart from the standard katana. Tengen's main forms of attack have him swinging his cleavers around so fast they destroy anything they come in contact with. And in the manga, it was mentioned that his swords are made of a special material that causes explosions every time he attacks. His fourth form, Constant Resounding Slashes, is one of these types of moves, but goes even further, being used for defense as well, as Tengen can use the blades to block and deflect any attack that comes his way. We can turn it into something greater by changing it to fourth form, Constant Blinding Slashes. Yeah, exactly blinding, because Tengen uses the sound generated from the cleavers to disorient his opponents, making it easy to counterattack and deflect attacks. But what if he took it a step further? Instead of just disorienting their hearing, he can disorient their vision as well, by swinging his blade so fast that they can create a blinding light that causes the opponent to be dazed for a second. With Tengen's speed, a second is more than all he needs, and he can take advantage of that to completely overwhelm his opponents using fifth form Fiery Performance, where he charges forward, his blade still spinning with the heat of the sun, and slashes at anything in his path, taking out his opponents immediately. Imagine if he had had this immense strength during his fight with Gyotaro and Ducky. His wives would have been rescued in the blink of an eye, and no amount of fabric would save Ducky from getting decapitated in an instant. Especially since she's the one that felt the fear of Muzan's cells after seeing Tanjiro using sun breathing. Now for easily the strongest Hashira of them all, Gyomei Himejima. Even with this overwhelming strength though, Gyomei is completely blind, relying on his keen sense of hearing and his natural instincts to fight and avoid danger. He also uses a spiked flail and axe instead of the Nichiren sword, which are said to be more durable than the standard sword. He also has a scary amount of physical strength that could come in handy with sun breathing. You see, Gyomei is also one of the Hashira that managed to turn their weapon red with the right gripping technique. Thanks to this, his already crazy strength went up even higher, and the hulking figure's speed climbed exponentially as well. Using that increased speed and overwhelming strength, Gyomei can take his third form, Stone Skin, which is a defensive move, and turn it into a counterattack. The original move, just like Tengen's fourth form, is almost purely for deflecting attacks and defending. But with the power of the sun in his weapon, it turns into third form, Molten Skin, allowing Gyomei to counterattack, deflecting the attacks back so hard that his opponents feel the impact as if they were being hit too. This works whether it's a melee attack, with a weapon, or even ranged. With moves like this, Gyomei can annihilate enemies just by allowing them to attack him. And with that, we've covered all the Hashira seen in the Demon Slayer series. Well, almost all of them. There's one more that deserves an honorable mention, even though she's long gone by the start of the series. Kanae Kocho, the former Flower Hashira and the older sister of Shinobu Kocho. We don't know much about her beyond her kind and caring nature, but one of her most notable feats was directly taking on one of the Upper Moon Doma and managing to fight him non-stop until sunrise, even though she lost her life at the end of it all. With abilities like that, we gotta save her just like we did with Rengoku. So let's make her overpowered enough to survive that battle, shall we? Kanae's attacks are graceful and agile, allowing her to skillfully attack multiple times before her opponents have the ability to move. With the added ability of sun breathing, we can take these abilities up a notch. Her final form, Equinoctial Vermilion Eye, is the perfect candidate for adapting her to sun breathing. With this ability, she pushes her visual prowess to its absolute limit, allowing her to perceive the world so fast that everything around her seems to be going in slow motion at the cost of one or both of her eyes. Well, let's upgrade it to final form, Equatorial Ruby Eye. This still allows her to view the world in slow motion, but with the added ability to see and predict moves that an opponent would make and react accordingly with a very reliable attack to decapitate an enemy. It would be similar to how Tanjiro can see the strings of his enemies and predict where and how to slash, except she can use it for as long as the eye is in working order, allowing her to make multiple fatal slashes. It's a bit too overpowered, even after everything we've created and altered so far. But you gotta agree with me that giving her that ability and allowing her to survive her battle with Doma would have changed the direction of the entire story in a positive way. I'm sure she would have gotten along swimmingly with Nezuko. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the strongest generation of Hashira ever. With this, the final battle against Muzan would end in a matter of minutes. That's if Muzan is put together enough to even attempt fighting a squad of sun-breathing users. And hey, if you want to know just what Muzan fears so much about sun breathing, then why don't you check out this video we made about the original sun breathing user himself, Yoriichi Sugekuni, the man who lives rent-free in Muzan's nightmares. Click it, come on, you won't regret it.